Just so you know. You're not, are you?
Not anymore.
See up here, that looks like they're starting over on 1200 West, Search and 16 North or whatever, that crosswalk. Maybe they're starting. They had both sides and things blocked off kind of on that corner on the east side.
I wonder if they're doing some power work there.
And
We have one more. We can wait for CJ or we can start since we have a quorum. It's up to. Since the time we got here. So you can start if we're ready. Yeah. Okay. Go ahead and start. We get a motion to approve the minutes.
I just want to say I did not make every motion that we had last meeting. It says that I did. I read the minutes for meeting. I was like, I didn't make every single motion.
I
We had to make that meeting.
I moved. I moved it, we approved the minutes as written.
Second. Thank you.
I'll second with the caveat that I did not make every motion last meeting.
I wasn't here, so I'm going with it. One favor. Any opposed? Okay. And what else for us?
No.
All right. So this is John Dorney, and we're going to go through items 2, 3, 4. Project updates on a few things. Let's see if I can get that. Item number 2, project updates. We are in the final stages of getting this UVU roundabout. This is 1200 South, 400 East, Wolverine. Well, they changed the name now. It's not Wolverine Way. It's something.
I think it used to be Willie Way. I think it's called We Care Way.
We Care Way.
Oh.
Hobby Lobby. There's over here. So this is just a schematic of one of the layouts. Just to kind of tell you, we did kind of a small version and a big version and a phase version. The city council approved the bigger version. We're in the middle of trying to acquire land from the church on the southwest side. Here's the roundabout. I know it's kind of an engineering drawing, but we have about 10 of these that we're going through to try to acquire. The church has agreed to sell that to us. On the northwest side, again, here's the roundabout. Wolverine Way. This area is the area that we're working with UVU. Right now, UVU has, I think their engineering building is right up here. And they're right here, and they're changing some of their approaches and parking. So we're in the middle of working with them and merging the new engineering building driveways with the roundabout. There's discussions on is the roundabout too big, too small? Do we want to have a roundabout? So UVU's the last.
Going back to the drawing board?
Well,
was decided 3 years ago.
Full disclosure, yes, UVU is kind of readdressing, like, do we want it that big? Do we want it that way? So our next step is to sit down with them and their consultant and say, this is why we're at the process we're at now. City council has already approved this other version.
And in this slide, there are no homes that are affected, that third slide.
So real quick, Orem already purchased this home. And there are no other homes. No, we're not. This lady right here made it really clear not to mess with anything on her property. So we're not touching anything on her property. We're improving it. I think we're making the sidewalk better and wrapping it around. But just so you know, that's the status. If you're asked about it, we've gone through all the right-of-way documents. We're ready to pull the trigger and purchase it, but we don't want to purchase the church property if it's not going to be this final layout. So
the indication what the school wants.
In their opinion, from what my understanding is they feel the roundabout is too large. They don't feel like the growth is gonna be there, so we actually went out early December.
yeah, right before the week before school was out, we did some counts.
We got some counts, so we could share those with them, and
So what do they, okay, sorry, what do they care if it's too large? Like, when has that ever been an issue? And is it a property issue or is it,
Are we taking their?
because why do they care?
we don't know. That's the interesting component to it, is we don't understand why this is
If
the,
they don't want to lose a couple trees, then I get it.
We've actually redesigned it to accommodate losing less trees.
and
Oh, there you go.
we've met with UVU on a separate occasion.
Right through here.
with the same parties. And they agreed to our hybrid roundabout because we had brought forth to you guys too, the phased approach of doing a larger single lane. Or we move forward with the hybrid. You guys all supported to move forward with the hybrid. We brought the council work session and we got the same feedback. That's where we were moving towards, and now we're coming up against some
What
additional.
do they hate engineers? Is that?
Is it too busy, too dangerous? Is there a safety issue?
I think right now that they just feel like, because they look at the size of this, they compare it to the size that's further to the west. They feel like it's a little large, but there's some other issues with this. Some geometry is the biggest. I mean, we're looking at velocities in there that are about.
Mathematicians.
Oh.
Geometry, sorry.
Yeah, but we don't have enough deflection. If we made it smaller, which is what they're assuming that we can do, then we don't have the right deflection in there to keep speeds in the low to mid 20s. So it's that size for those other components. So when we get that data,
Yeah.
John is to go.
The current deflection, meaning when you approach it here, you can go 40 miles an hour without much problem. And so,
And maybe their counts are less important than the
Well-
crew counts.
well, the
right?
first time we counted the student housing wasn't full. And so we were estimating based on a Hales traffic study. Now that that's full, we did new counts. But they're always buying out homes and building more housing. So,
That's what I'm
I
saying.
think their
That's
argument
the
is
one
that, that there's not going to be any growth.
Nobody ever regrets.
It has been said that they don't think there's going to be traffic growth, so why would it doesn't need to be that big? So we just need to go back and look at it.
But you're not talking about increasing lanes or anything like that, you're just talking about the size of the thing that vehicles have to go around.
You can see that it's a single lane roundabout now. And if you can see on the screen, there's kind of a hybrid where there's 2 lanes here, but 1 lane here, there's a 1 lane here. Part of it is for the buses that use it, have to make it. But instead of going 2 lanes all around, we did a hybrid, and we, instead of, making it smaller, we kind of did 2 where required, 1 where required. And that's why we're calling it a hybrid. You can also see it's not perfectly round in the center. That's just how roundabouts are designed now. It's not just a perfect circle. So with striping and mountable aprons, and to get those lane speeds, that's kind of what we did. But we just wanted to inform you that we're still working on it.
And
UVU had given us thumbs up on all the figures. We got electrical. So that's where that is. Next item B, I don't know why that's so fuzzy. That's right off. Oh, there it is. This is 1600 North, 400 East. You're familiar with this intersection. Sam can probably report on the next approach for this property. Is that?
Yeah, so right now I drafted a memo. It will be, I sent that to our city manager. He will be taking it to city council and their retreat this weekend for some direction. That triangular piece on the northwest corner is now for sale. You may have driven by and seen a large for sale sign. So right now, they would entertain selling it to the city. The asking price is 1.5 million. We do have fund balance in one of our the transportation sales tax fund that we collect money. We do have funding in there that we have the ability for a one-time purchase of that property. By doing that, that's one phase of it. Should we go ahead and move forward with that? The other phase is, as we have studied this intersection, it's resounding that the citizenry there, and I think as well as TAC, you guys can correct me if I'm wrong, would like a two-phased approach, some sort of a surface improvement with the grade separated option. With the purchase of this property, the grade separated option becomes a reality. Then we have that whole parcel. We could go ahead and utilize as much of it as we need to make that happen, whether it's grade separated being a tunnel below or a bridge above. And then once we have our project complete, we could either repurpose it, understanding that if we do that, the fund would have to be reimbursed, or we could go ahead and sell off the remainder parcel and go ahead and let it be developed as its zone, which is an R8 zone.
So we do need that property.
Some of it.
If the council would like to move forward with pursuing a grade separated option, which is going to be anywhere from 12 to 15 million, we do have an option that we could right now put together a concept report and submit that to MAG to get for funding for 27-28. So that's one of those things where the timing is of the essence, and if we would like to do that, we could go ahead and start with that process. I did reach out to Rocky Mountain Power. It seems pretty plausible if we wanted to do a bridge that likely it's going to be an expense, but to bury the distribution line and then go ahead and then install poles. Out of juice. Yeah. See it.
Not sure.
But anyways, what we could do if we happen to go a bridge that would start or end here, whichever way you want to look at it, go up and come down. There's a scenario where speaking to the representative, that we could maybe make these poles a little taller, extend that high powered primary, that one circuit up above, and then we can have a bridge go underneath of it, and then take that distribution line and bury it. And we can go ahead and do that.
What's the benefit of a bridge over the tunnel, just not the expensive digging?
If we go with a tunnel, they both have their pros and cons, right? If we go with a tunnel, we're not sure, because right now we have a concept report and it's very high level design. We don't know for sure how far we would have to chase the utilities in that area. Water's going to be pretty easy to go ahead and loop down, and I say that it's relative, right? But I don't know how far we would have to go for sewer. I don't know if we end up having to dive down, we chase it a long ways down and catch grade, and when we do that, then we got to make sure we make all the connections. I just don't know what that entails. And from what I've heard, I mean, there's a tunnel versus a bridge. It seems like there's a few more people that are a little bit more supportive of a bridge versus a tunnel, just because of safety. And quite frankly, I mean, even to your comment where you have your kids, you still don't use that tunnel. You'd still use the at-grade crossing.
Only on roadways, on bikes, the tunnel works great.
But
Yeah.
so I mean,
It would be just wide open, so you'd start way back there, go up and over and down.
right.
So you don't need stairs, you don't need to have anything like a UVU, where you're gonna have the elevator, you like that.
So to say that we wouldn't need it is probably a little bit of a stretch, just in the fact that even though we would have an at-grade crossing, we're still gonna have to put in the service improvements, and they're gonna have to remain, because you still have
Not
folks.
everybody's going.
Right, so, and with that being said, if the bridge, if the abutments start here and in there, you still have to figure out a way for people that are coming down here, how are they gonna get to the bridge? Now, we could have them come through our park, through this detention basin, and maybe that's an access point. But for these folks here, I mean, we could have them come off and go there.
Yes.
There might be stairs here, there, I mean, we'd have to vet all of that, but I mean, we wouldn't put in an elevator, to your point, we would actually just have a ramp, and you can see a lot of those, some of those pedestrian overpasses along Bangor Highway, they have the switchback ramping. And I think in this case, we're gonna have a ramp up and a ramp down, and then to access it, we would just have to figure out some way of ADA compliance to get people from there to it, so.
You just didn't have the room to extend their ramps.
Yeah.
All the way up.
And then they have to go over the freeway, which is a super high, requirement, so. We have the room in theory to go parallel to the path. Hence, we might leave them in.
Well, I for one will be so grateful.
Yeah, so glad you did.
I finally crossed 2 days ago. I couldn't face that intersection. Just couldn't go. So I've been going east or driving to 2000 and walking into Pleasant Grove because that was so terrifying. It was and she stopped. I won't tell you what I said to her, but this little white-haired pretty lady, I really just said, watch, please. Because she had stopped, she's like this, window down, just shaking. And she just said, thank you. I thought, thank you for not dying. Thank you for running. Thank you for, I don't know what, but she was really sweet. I felt sorry for her, but. And it.
We're
so
working on it.
It's just, I don't want to be the person who plays there.
So that's the thought, and even when we talked about purchasing this property, maybe it's a spot, we don't have necessarily a trailhead for any of our trails, and maybe this makes sense to put a trailhead in there, put a restroom, there's all kinds of things that happen.
I've been watching, there's not a single sign warning drivers that they're approaching a dangerous intersection. It could a sign say, caution, trail crossing. I walk, there's nothing.
Yeah.
There's nothing to warn people that they're getting in trouble in a minute because there's a lot of people walking and biking and whatever across there.
High pedestrian area or something.
It's just, we need, it's gonna take a while for this stuff to happen. And like my suggestion on that left light, say, look left for pedestrians, because they don't. I drove up there the other day and I thought, okay, I'm a human, what am I looking at? I'm looking at the guy coming at me in his car. I am not looking at those pedestrians at all. The pedestrians are just on their own. If there's just a sign on the left light bank, watch left for pedestrians, and then at least it's something like, oh,
You're talking about people that are turning left from 400,
the woman, she was coming up north on 400. Well, on every one of them, the left turns will get you,
but
no matter.
that's the one that is.
It's interesting because.
Well, and the one
really
coming
local
down
road.
and turning and going
You
east.
can't have
is
that many
killer
people
too.
making that left and
Right, and I think to
so
your
why
point,
are they having?
well, to your point, we discussed this, I'll follow up with Taylor. He said he has implemented some sort of a pedestrian protocol at 8th Easton Center to where if the ped call is made, you don't have that flashing yellow arrow, that it actually, something happens in there. So one, I want to
Good delays.
find out what he has programmed there, and then what can we do up here?
Even if you delay it for, this is what we talked about this for the crossing guard, even if you delay it for 5 seconds, allow the pedestrian, because then the driver's sitting there looking around like, why am I not getting the flashing yellow? And then a pedestrian gets the head start, right?
Yeah, and I was thinking the other day, that would help the guy here, because he can make it to here. But this poor guy going here, he starts out and he gets him again.
Well,
So it's
but
has
that's what I'm hoping is,
to clear.
yeah, the hope is that the fact that the pedestrian was walking while he's sitting there for 5 seconds,
He'll
catches his
figure
attention,
it
he'll
out.
see it.
Yeah.
Or they get far enough that they're in their line of sight now. That's the
Or-
idea.
Or if the ped call is made, it just holds them.
Yeah.
It just says red,
Why not?
red, and they have to go through, and then if the ped call is made, they get a don't walk and they let that left go. There's gotta be that priority if it's
I
gone.
know he didn't like it for 4th and 4 just because of the traffic volumes, but.
But I mean, at certain times of the day, I
Right.
don't know if it's able to
Right.
do it during those peaks, and that's just how it is. Or whatnot.
I like that we're still talking about the two-step approach so that there's a surface solution. I think the scatters what is on the table, right? But I also like the conversation about doing something much smaller, whether it's light signaling or putting up some signage. That in the meantime, because we're still talking about pedestrians trying to be months away. And in the last meeting, I talked about the person that I saw get hit,
Yeah.
well, I didn't see him get, I saw him on the
You
ground
saw
and I
this.
stopped. That's gonna keep on happening, so if there's a way we can do like a baby step before there's a redesign of the intersection, I think that would be a really good idea, whether it's signaling or signage or.
Have something done in
Whatever else.
1 month, you know, that. Give ourselves a goal. Do something right now that's easy, and then go to step 2.
There may not be left turn heads out there. There's not a left green, right? It's just a ball. I'm
Yeah,
looking,
it's just,
so,
they get a green light.
right, so it would require some head changes, but there's things we can do, you know,
Yeah.
easier or less, harder, you know, more expensive. And so we just need to brainstorm with all the departments, Public Works, us, get your input.
Is it a combo protected ball or is it just a ball?
So
It might just be a green ball.
I'm looking at it, and technically, if you have a left turn arrow, it's got to be in front of your lane.
Yeah.
And based on right here, you can see the signal, that's the shadow.
I think it's just.
Yeah.
This is the shadow, but the head is right here and it's facing here. And so to have a left turn arrow that's red or green, it has to be in front of the lane. So this mast arm would have to be extended to be in front.
So we have the left turn arrows on 16th, we just won't have them on 4th.
Yeah, you see,
You can see the 3 heads there.
Yeah.
there's a head here. As you come across left, you can see the head there. And so there's an arrow. So there's rules we have to follow. That's why it takes a little bit of time and money. And, you know,
Is there such thing as a blank outside for pedestrians? Instead of doing a head, you just when the button's pushed, you have a blank out come out for pedestrians.
Yeah, I think so we meet every other week with Public Works and Public Safety. And we discuss a lot of these traffic and transportation issues, and we come up with a game plan. And this next one, I don't know if I'll be here for it. John will be, he'll be able to follow up and just say, hey, what can we do? How quickly can we get out there and do this? Because I know on some of our mast arms, we've actually added an extension. And we've added heads, whether it's a blank out, whether it's an arrow. I would imagine we have some down in our yard. It wouldn't take too much to do. So.
I don't know if you heard Chris Shirky's presentation on the Tiger. Last year, a month ago. He presented on this Tiger team. It's a traffic Tiger team, transportation team that gets together. And I think I don't know, we've had 50 or 60 projects and we're halfway through. And so we work on them based on urgency, and this one's less urgent because it's not as a safety issue. So we kind of keep going like this and get started and rotating. And so we can add them to the list and talk about it. And then we have them do their traffic stuff. We do our engineering stuff and get together again. So it's a process, but this has definitely got priority of most projects. So
It'd be dead people, so, you know, stuff that you have.
I was surprised that you guys hadn't heard about the pedestrian. Right, so that means, because I've been under the assumption that if there's police, like there has to be police report, ambulance service will call, get us taken to the hospital. Right, so I was under the impression that if there's a police report, at least it gets back to city employees. And it seemed like it hadn't.
So The only way that we would get notified is if we go and look for it, we're aware of it, and that's, I mean, other than that, it's all recorded in Spielman. Or it's recorded in New Metric. But it's not as if
You
the
don't get like
officer.
that
You don't
ding that says
It
pedestrian
was-
vehicle collision at
Right.
this intersection.
No, we look at an intersection, we pull all the data, but it's not, it's one way. You know, it doesn't come to us, we have to go get it, and we talk to the state and the local PD and compare notes.
Well, it's funny you say that, because UDOT did that. UDOT went and hired somebody to go and do exactly that, so that they are aware of what's going on, yeah.
Yeah, so we'll add it to the Tiger team. We meet every couple of weeks, and then I meet separately with Taylor as part of the Public Works group every other week. So I meet him this week, and then we meet together again the next week. So I'm with him weekly, and I know him from where I used to work before, so we're pretty close and cooperative.
You go something for the pre-step to the fix it, that's great.
Yeah, we want that first step, first step.
So is it your recommendation that the city purchase that property? They're taking it to the council,
I'm just making them aware that right now is an opportunity, if they support going grade separated and they support setting aside funding for a $15 million project. Then now is the time to do that. If they feel like, you know what, let's look at these other ones and we'll see how it goes. I'm fine with that too. I mean, it's just they need to, I was just kind of informing them that, I mean, because 15 million is a lot.
It's all residential,
Right,
so if somebody buys it, they're gonna put houses on it,
right.
and then the price is gonna go through the roof.
Right.
So, you're right, if they're
So
even
even if-
remotely thinking about it.
Right, even if we purchased it and sat on it and we went ahead and went with phase one. And it looks like it's working and you know what, we don't need to get and we can still go through the whole process and have the funding ready to go, set aside money, and then we can say, hey, we're ready to pull the trigger, what do you think? What we've done seems to have managed most of the expectations, we haven't seen any of the near misses. I think we're okay, then we can go ahead and sell it. And the mag money can go back in the pot and we can do it that way as well.
so this would just be basically buying time.
Yeah.
To make the
Buys
decision.
the opportunity.
Yeah, buys the opportunity to make a decision.
Once you get two people living on that property, you just try putting an overpass in next to them and see what happens. They won't want it. So if we own it and we're in charge, then we can do what we need to do.
Or we sell it.
Power line. So Jay, you mentioned something about a signal. Or what you call it, but basically a signal where everything goes, so basically if there's pedestrian, everything goes red.
Yeah, no, the blank outside, yeah, go ahead, sorry.
No,
You talking about the blank outs?
a blanket.
So that's just a light up sign. So it's blank until it's activated, then it comes up as a lighted sign. So I was just thinking, if you can't do a signal head in and of itself, if you could put in something pretty cheaply, I'd imagine with the push of a button where something comes illuminated and says, watch for pedestrian or something.
It's an off-on light. It's not like,
So then is, just thinking, is there a way that also when someone's crossing that intersection, that we program the light so that there is not a green light to be had until that time that they cross? Is that a thing?
Yeah, it's called
that's the scramble, yeah.
That's the first things that we're gonna do.
Well, maybe.
Oh, proposed, that's the first.
That was one of the solutions was that. In what we proposed, we had proposed making these crosswalks more diagonal instead of apex. Actually pointing them in the right directions and also doing some curb return work. Meaning we would extend the curves, add some more concrete in strategic areas. To allow to shorten that crossing distance, whether it's opposite of these right turns, or we take a few right turns. If we take a right turn lane, especially on this one, the queue length is really long. And that, and understanding that we're trying to maintain some sort of level of service for that intersection. Because the unintended consequences, if these folks are queuing here, wanting to turn right, they're waiting, they're just gonna go ahead and cut through Skyline. And then they end up speeding through Heather Road or whatever it is. So we take one problem and possibly move it to another. So the thought would be make these crosswalks directional. Maybe we increase these other opposite sides to shorten that distance. And if we want to accommodate the trail users with the scramble, maybe we would look at some sort of advanced detection so that while everyone's just crossing, if student or pedestrians just trying to go from here to here, we don't need to make them all red, it just operates as a normal signal. But if we have a trail user and it's pretty effective and they can press the button, they time it to when they get here, and then within a few seconds, it all goes red, then that works too. But that's one of those things where we have to look at, sounds great in theory, but do we have the hardware? And is it intelligent enough to do that? Even though it can write a paper for me, I don't know if it can figure out how to run all those signals. So that, to your point, is one of the options we'd like to look at if it's possible.
You're thinking maybe a smaller version.
I'm just thinking something that we could read it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, I love that flashing.
Put in a pedestrian cycle for crossing that isn't.
Just gives pedestrians enough time to. I'm saying that thinking of the pedestrian as driving through there, but that it gives them enough time where there are just. Nobody's going anywhere, there's no drivers going anywhere until that person.
It's a lot easier with a turn signal head. But with the green balls, it's tough. I mean, you basically just have to shut down that direction. Until the pedestrian gets across. Yes, that's
So
a
a lot of options, a lot of decisions. We'll keep you informed and.
But to that point too, to kind of wrap up, we are looking to get a finalized recommendation from our consultant. We'll have that, you guys are ready to review it, but we've given you kind of the Reader's Digest version of it. I can say that because I think everyone here remembers what Reader's Digest was. People, I don't think my kids will, they look at me like, what is that? But anyways, that's essentially what we have for that.
Would quarter preservation funds qualify for that parcel from bank?
No. It wouldn't, because it's not a project yet. And I don't know if we could use corridor preservation for trails. That's the only other caveat. I mean, yeah.
There's a funding source for preserving property for MAG projects, so we can look at that separately and see. It's probably too late if we want to buy the property right away to get that, but there might be some reimbursement. All right, 1600 North Corridor. So this is State Street, the 12th West, and a little bit more. So it's not 1600 North to the neighborhood. It's
State Street,
it's
yeah.
the State Street West.
Does it go under the freeway or just to the freeway entrance?
No, it
Well,
just
the freeway, there's a lot of
it
ways.
just goes to 12th.
It goes to 12th, and there's some surface improvements they want to do because there's there's a asphalt seam that if they stop at 12th, they'll have this area of just garbage asphalt. So it's 12th West plus a little bit.
Change.
Yeah, so plan to be a 5-lane facility, bike lanes, a bike path. We meet on that project every week. They have a separate Orem City only meeting every 2 weeks. Then we have every other week between a full team project meeting. So basically we're meeting every week with UDOT and the consultant, and they're fine tuning the plans. You can see in the notes, they've suggested that we get the tenants to vacate on the properties that we own as a city.
So last report we had, we couldn't do this because we couldn't afford it. Have they figured out now that we can afford it? Because I thought this was dead in the water.
Well, we're moving forward with design.
Okay,
So we have design and then right away. And then once all of those are buttoned up and finalized. And essentially they have the environmental cleared, so they can start approaching folks to purchase properties. And then we have the consultant on board. Well, is this design bid build or is it CMGC, they say?
You haven't said.
So
Because if
really,
it was just CMGC, there would be a contractor already involved.
right,
So it's probably design bid bills.
so we really won't know until it's actually bid. We have some hard numbers. I mean, from what I've read, seems like inflation has finally started to level off. I don't know what that means. Hopefully, maybe material prices come down a little bit and some other.
So is this 100% state funded, UDOT? Or isn't in this anymore?
Well,
Technically,
Financial.
yes and no. They're so Orem does have money still at MAG that was earmarked for this project. And so what happens, to get a little more technical with this, is that, so to John's point on corridor preservation, Orem accessed about $3 million of corridor preservation dollars, which is down at the county. You know, we use that money to purchase 6 homes. So now, and that was under Orem's jurisdiction, Orem's road, Orem's project. We had a jurisdictional transfer. It's not under Orem's jurisdiction. Now it's UDOT. So with that being said, now those properties, once there's a project, that project, now that is UDOT's, UDOT will now have to reimburse the corridor preservation fund with that money that was expended on those. So UDOT has to do that, but I think UDOT feels like they have some of our money that is money in MAG to utilize for that. And it's not their money, it's still MAG's money. So I don't know how it's all gonna.
but we wanted it. Now
Well,
we want it.
because for us, all of the projects we have in the hopper, like Lakeview Parkway, 16th North, 4th East, Center Street,
That's
you
true.
have some other MAG funded projects that are probably gonna be underfunded because of where things are. So we were thinking, Orem and MAG, or there's things where you have this balance that we can apply towards these projects. And then in my conversation with UDOT saying, well, no, you don't have that much of a balance, you have this much of a balance, which is less than what we thought. So there's a little bit of a discrepancy here. So to your point, there might be some co-mingling of some other funding, but
But it's not like a 7% match of 50
Yeah,
million or something, you know,
Yeah.
it's a small percentage of a,
Control of this.
yes,
Yeah.
yes,
Okay.
they just might be looking for.
I have 2 questions. Question number 1 is, in the design phase, are you also consulting with Mazer? Because in the public meeting I went to, many of the community members near, I guess south of 8, not southwest of 8, west to 1200 north, were concerned about 1200 west. We're concerned about Mazer drop off and pick up every day, and then a trail of cars. So that's my first question, is are you aware that there's an issue with that school, and are they in the conversation about the redesign?
are they
And my
doing,
second question is, why does UDOT want people to leave their homes if they're still in the design phase?
so UDOT can't get involved with homes that we own.
Okay, why does UDOT want more of?
Yeah. So since, well, so, yeah, so Orem has to take care of that, and the houses have to be vacant before UDOT can come in and do anything, or else they have to pay for relocation.
Oh, UDOT would have to take the relocation.
Yeah,
If
so-
the project starts
If-
before the houses are cleared.
Yeah, and if UDOT goes in and says, hey, we need you to move, then they say, okay, you need to pay for me to move. But if Orem as a landlord says, you need all up by me.
So I understand why Orem's supposed to do it, but why now? I mean, these projects take years to start, and we're still in the design phase. So why do they want people out of homes now?
Part of it is, you've heard the term shovel ready.
Yeah.
If the project's shovel ready and we're sitting there, legislator, waiting for money, that'll come along a long way. If we're kind of like, yeah, we need the money, but are the homes, why are the homes still there? You know, why are they still cleared? It costs money to demolish a house, and there's 36 homes they have to take. And so when we talk to the right-of-way person at our weekly meeting, he's like, you're not going to even make it. It's going to take you 2 years to acquire all this property and to demolish it. And so the right-of-way was the key time element that they were worried to accomplish. So they're like, we need to get it done. And so it's part of it is shovel-ready projects get funded because they are ready. And then also the time it takes to do right-of-way documents, because they don't need the whole parcel when they're done, right? And so that's just a time crunch, and that's what the right-of-way person. So Ivan offered, said, do you want to hire somebody to help you? Because why would it take that long?
So for the 36 houses that you mentioned, is that,
All on the south side.
yeah, is that demolishing all houses, or is that taking,
That's-
I know some of the houses will be destroyed, but is that also, in some cases, just buying part of the property, right, buying part of the side yard?
There might be a few of those, but most of them are all takes because they just front it.
They get so close and they encroach into the setback, you start paying for damages. And I think, I mean, there's a few homes that we've done in the past where they still wanted that, and you were within a setback and it's legal non-conforming and you have traffic right next to the home, but more often than not, once you break it down and you start showing them how close it is and how loud it is and what's going on, they'd rather be purchased than then forward.
I think there's one home on the north side right up against the commercial on the east side. And then the other homes that are fronting 1600, they're going to do like they did on 8th East with a little frontage road. Where you come in. Yeah, so there's no driveways directly. They have kind of their own entrance. And we've been working with the fire department of how to get in and out of that area. But pretty much it's all in the south. So regarding Mazer, we're not touching their frontage. Now, if there's an issue with queuing on 1600, I know they have that new entrance around the back where they made the track a little bit.
Yeah,
I don't know if that's since the meeting. but-
That's been there
Oh,
for
that's been there for years.
like, yeah, 3 or 4 or 5 years. But it's probably something we could bring up to the next meeting and say, hey, has anyone checked what that looks like? Because it's a charter school, right? And
Yeah.
it's 100% driven. There's no buses.
Anybody talked about this, I remember going to that meeting, and where they had the big maps out, and people were talking about, like, this is the problem is.
They would have had to in the environmental. It's just now the
Understanding,
next
too, that
phase.
that's Linden City as well. That's not.
Spacers in London, oh gosh.
But Linden is at the weekly meetings or
Yeah,
every
they're at
2
the
weeks.
table. That's right about that street right there, just east of it is our Orem living board. I think some of those homes are in Orem, but Mazer is actually in.
Is the church in order? Is it kind of
Yeah, there's a church
Yeah,
building.
or line the street that the church
I
is?
think the church is actually Linden, actually.
Okay.
I think those homes, because I know further down the street, we had a little bit of a flooding issue. And at the end of that street turns in, and I want to say just west of those homes is.
That's right, because it's the Linden Home Depot, not the one.
Yeah, so this picture isn't this is for the next item, but basically we're actively working. We're happy with the consultant. They're on top of things. We're meeting the deadline. It's just that right away was a killer, and they're like, you just need to, because there's still homes that no one has purchased. No one is like, there's 36, there's 6 that we own, and there's a couple that are already done, but there's 20 or 30 more.
So they're not, I just. You asked.
Okay. Next item, D, Lakeview Parkway. This is a cross section of it. We had a question just today. Actually, I don't know if it came in today or a couple of days ago, but today I answered him back. He asked about Lakeview Parkway. Are there bike lanes? Are there paths? So this is kind of an older cross section, but this is similar to what will be built. And the area is this is off the UDOT website, because UDOT is working on a Geneva Road project right here, where Geneva Road will tee into Lakeview. So you have Geneva and Geneva, but it's being split and teeing in. Temple's right there. So this section of Lakeview is being designed, and you have an update on the status of that?
Yeah, so right now we have been working with our consultant.
This
We
is
just
the-
did some extra geotechnical work for that area. So it looks like there's some soil issues, so they're gonna give us a different way to, or they're gonna look to see how we can mitigate the cross section. So yeah, we're just moving through with that. There are some utility issues. There's some moving pieces there. Provo is gonna be looking to, if they haven't already started, they're gonna start installing some storm drain in their proposed Lakeview Parkway footprint. And then they plan on building 2 lanes of their facility soon, as well as looking to extend 2000 from Geneva Road to Lakeview. So this whole area, in a matter of a couple of years, will probably be all complete.
How swampy is that down there, you know, when you're, just like, do they get into wetlands?
So the only wetland area that's been identified is closer to where Geneva Road is gonna swing over and then it's gonna tie into Lakeview Parkway. There's a small little pocket of that in there, and that's one of the questions we've asked them was to identify that, because they're coming up with some costs and estimates, looking to get to 60% design, and we wanna know if there's wetland mitigation in there, because sometimes that's two square feet per 1 square foot of wetland that you have to match or mitigate. So we need to know those items if we can avoid that. And then we're working through some other items, some storm drain with 2000 being looking to be connected in Lakeview Parkway, Geneva Road. We're looking to also put in a large diameter storm drain trunk line, about a 60-inch diameter, which is 5 foot of concrete, which is a really big pipe, ends up being about 5.5 feet when it's all said and done. So we're working with the property owner down there, Byron Taylor, to relocate our Taylor drain. And so, yeah, we got a few moving parts in that area, but Geneva Road widening project is moving forward. Even to that point, similar to 16th North, I don't know if they've purchased all the right of way. And UDOT, like the city, would not move forward with the project unless they have, what's the word I'm looking for? Right of access. They won't start a project until they actually have all that right of way locked up. Another side note too, that they have 2 sessions planned for the dedication of the temple, 10 o'clock and 1 o'clock. I would not drive down there unless you're going to that, because they plan on having 1,600 people there, and the parking lot only holds a little over, or a little under 600, like 570.
Oh,
And they plan on turning that thing over in 45 minutes, so they didn't want to listen to anything we had to say, so there you go.
So there's
only gonna be about 5 people at the second one.
Well, I tried to explain, I said, you're trying to get all these folks in and out, and you have your dignitaries, the ones that'll be in the sessions or whatever's going on. Chances are they're gonna get caught up in traffic or something, you know what I mean? I was like, it'd be better if you either extended the window, or if you can't, to utilize these areas and shut them. And they just were, the temple department was adamant, they are not gonna do that, they're just gonna gut through it, so. They're gonna have some off-duty police officers there to help traffic control, so. Unless you have to be there, I would try to avoid that area.
And I believe,
the bike situation with bike on that stretch?
Our parkway is similar to what is on Geneva Road. So where we have the only,
I was talking to you, but that's.
so
Oh.
Geneva's gonna be similar, except on Geneva Road, this multi-use path is gonna be on the east side. Then we get to the intersection, we'll cross over, this path will be on the west side. But that's what you would see, similar to what Geneva Road has.
So multi-use path means it's a sidewalk big enough, or
It's a 14-foot path, so you. can-
Bicyclists and stuff.
Pedestrians,
why is there also bike off track?
because that's what they have, there's bike things in the roadway as well.
you'll still have road riders that want to ride on the road. Spandex riders.
yeah.
It'd be more-
Streets where people-
And I believe, isn't the Provo-Orem boundary right there?
What's the green dotted line?
Roughly, yeah.
So this is off the MAG website, and the green colors have to do with funding and phasing.
Oh,
So there's a there's a need of green now and a funding phase. So if I zoomed out, well, that one, that's the bridge across the lake. So, well, there's 3 or 4 different options, so
No, we do not.
We don't know.
We do not.
that's a
He does not.
whole separate thing. New items, item number 3A. We're looking at the 800 East, 200 North intersection, Cascade Elementary. This is kind of a zoomed in version of that.
So what's the problem and what's the solution?
Well, let me show you the problem. We got a lady, we received a comment from a lady that took cell phone video. And I took some screenshots of it where this car like came around and behind and went in it was just a weird maneuver that she took a picture of. Here's a car parked in red. There's another car parked in red later over here. If you look at this car, this is looking towards the school, so southeast. Look what is behind that car, and this car is in a crosswalk. These kids are there waiting to cross.
Typical school.
It is, and I think there's another car parked in red curbing. So if you look to the left, north,
Yeah, but she's
She's-
going.
Oh, she was headed down 1600 north to the lake.
And
She's
if-
heading to the bridge that isn't there yet.
if you look north of this, there's another truck parked. It's actually this black truck that, does it show up later? Maybe not. Anyways, I took a bunch of screenshots and made sure that we knew and recognized that it is a typical school, but if you notice, there's no crossing guards. This crosswalk looks substandard. You can see it's not very wide, and you can,
Crossing is down ways.
well, there's a hawk signal right here.
Yeah, that's where most of the kids cross, I thought.
They're gonna get across to.
They do. There's no crosswalks here, but they have to get across 200 North. There's also right here. Is that where we have the rapid flashing beacon?
I don't know if we've installed the RFB there. I know there's a crossing guard there, but I don't think.
Okay, so there's a crossing guard. One thing to point out, and this has been brought up, that there's often cars parked here and here that block the sight of people coming around. We're working on some options. One option is to signalize this, and we're getting data to see if we should just get rid of the hawk signal and signalize this intersection for traffic and for pedestrians. Do we need crossing guards here? We also thought about taking out this grass. It's a little bit of a drainage area, and making this a kind of a right turn drop off so that cars could get through and they can still do that. So it's kind of stuff, again, down the road. We don't have data on near misses. We don't have close calls. The lady went out there and you could see just in one day what was going on. Kids were stepping off the curb behind vehicles because they blocked the crosswalk. And they have to block it because they can't see, because cars are parked illegally, so it just snowballs.
Well, we're just bringing 1600 down to 200. I would say if they question, do you have a crossing guard? You better believe it, because you got all those little kids who need someone defending them. Even with a crossing guard, you can get wiped out. But yeah, don't anybody ever suggest no crossing guard at that?
Yeah.
Because we need to give the kids a fighting chance.
So there's some-
The only place where they have crossing guards, so it's right there at the hawk signal,
Yeah,
and then there's not one there.
There's not,
yeah.
It's on 1000 East. and
Oh, they moved over there.
That's where my wife is. And there's the one on the back end and the one on the front end, and then there's one on Center Street. But I don't think there's one there, would be only 3.
so we have some cheaper, quicker options, which are, hey, what does it take to get a crossing guard on one of these sides or both? Could we look at adding a drop off? What would it take? Does it warrant a signal? Is it safer? So that's something that we're also adding to the list of things to do, taking a look at schools first. They've shown you all these pictures. this area right here is where we thought about cutting into this drainage area and having a pull out. And it's tough because schools are always this, all of them are that way. Like,
This one specifically, they closed Sharon.
yeah,
It's got an uptick in a lot more students. We even have a request at 200 north and 400 east to put in something because we have folks coming that far west, bringing their kids, and they need some way across 400 east. So
yeah, we're looking further to the east of this. So we're working on that.
No, people backed up.
Sandhill Road, 1250 south. This is UVU on the north side, McDonald's, Walmart. Used to be a Shell gas station. I think it's an Exxon something now, or this one. This is 1250. Comment came in about possibly closing that. I know we used to have a median years ago that used to block it. It was taken out as part of a roadway improvement. But there's not any easy ways to get out if we close it. If you zoom out a little bit, the only way out left would have to come through private property. This is all private. I think
So why do they want
So
to
you
close the
couldn't
roads?
get Walmart.
they want to, yeah, safety wise, cars trying to pull out.
Hey, we've been battling that for years, surviving.
So
That's
it's not a pedestrian issue. It's not a, it's probably a low priority, but we are discussing things with the parking lot owner here to see if we can maybe, if we do close it and make it a right in, right out. What that would mean for people to get out. There is a signal here. There's not one here.
But they can't get there. That's where.
Well, they can use it, but
Drive through the park.
we're looking at saying, okay, can we improve that? It's a pretty, if you look at the parking lot, the quality of it is pretty hammered. I know Brent Brown uses this to park their new vehicles. They may not like that too much, but in looking at the request from the citizen, we're kind of doing some due diligence, but
Is that square building and apartment building?
this one right here in the middle. That's a
That's interesting.
okay.
So it's people that are mostly. There's also a hotel.
No, there's-
Is there a hotel over here?
There's a car washing,
Yeah.
I get it.
And UVU has like a business incubator or something in that old Saturn, where the Saturn dealership.
So you wouldn't
was.
be closing the road, you'd be just making it a right. in,
Yeah.
right out.
Correct.
Yeah.
Just put a meeting in.
Just getting left out. I think I took a screenshot. So that's looking north.
There's not a turn lane.
Yeah, I mean, cars, most during the commute times, they're not going to get out. I don't know if they're taking chances. It's like I said, it's not a pet vehicle issue. It's on the radar, but it's not huge priority. We're not going to go look at this over a school crossing. But if you have an opinion or people ask you, this is kind of one of the things we're going to add to the Tiger team. We've already got, is it Kathleen? Kathy Lewis wrote a letter to somebody here and it came back. No, we had a hard time tracking down the owner, but we figured it out and we're trying to meet with them and talk about, hey, if we improve your entrance, we have an easement or something like that. But we have to look and see if there's really an issue here.
There. And there wasn't a single car in that parking lot. I can't remember why I didn't park at Walmart. Anyway, we went over and parked there and came out and my car was booted. And it cost me boo bucks. And I said, God, there's nobody in this parking lot. I can't park here. Well, the owner doesn't want anyone to park here.
Is it right here?
Yeah. And I thought, well, these are real Scrooge.
I think he leases to Brent Brown and there's been a change of ownership. I don't know who owns it now, but we're almost got the hour, right? We told you we'd be done in an hour.
Yeah.
I think this is last item. You've gone through this. I labeled them A, B, C, D, so you don't have to red circle north. This is the continuity connectivity plan that we talked about last time, and I think we voted to keep it. The word that we're getting from council and planning commissioners are let's let's abandon,
The applicant actually did withdraw.
yeah, so
Oh, the short-term rental thing.
No, this is just the street connection.
Yeah. So we're not gonna do anything. We're just gonna leave them as is on the east side and not suggest taking them off or keeping them or forcing them to connect. We could see that this could connect someday, but it's not tied to kind of the group that propagated it. We met with them before Christmas and I drew in this blue line here. There's discussion about this not connecting to A and B not connecting, and that this would connect over here and maybe have some residential or something in between. And so we're kind of down to the point where A would be the only access into the event center and the cabin type layout, and then there might be some fire gates here, but this would basically keep the residential separate from the rest of the commercial, and these would, you know, we never did have a BD connection.
But why not have an AV connection?
Well,
He says that you can't develop it properly, right?
it has to do with these residents here that, I mean, there's a 6-foot offset, twist the road and it goes in their driveways. Politically, this is a tough sell. If we want to go do that, I think we've kind of conceded.
Okay,
It would
so
be nice.
maybe that's BD though, what about AV?
So AB also, I think the planning commission was very clear. We don't want A to connect to B.
But why?
Is that a hillside?
Were they clear? I didn't think they were clear on anything.
Well, his name,
Jay,
Well, what they did is they continued that planning commission, so they haven't provided a recommendation as
Yeah.
far as I know. So we're still, no, it's moving forward with.
no
No
recommendation.
recommendation.
So
So,
the.
I guess
street
it's not
connection
clear.
master Plan is going to the council and they will decide which one, or if any, or if all, or if one is gonna be removed from the street connection master plan. But his rezone is what was.
Yeah.
So I just, yeah, I don't.
I'm gonna say,
why
when
the
he
AV
says that if you have a connection, it defeats this whole purpose of the secluded cabin in the woods.
Yeah, I can't do this
So,
thing.
So understanding, we told them that TAC approved the plan as is. And to be very honest, there are residents in the neighborhood that would like to see an AV connection. But unfortunately, those folks don't ever show up to the meetings, and it's all based on hearsay, and there's more there that oppose the AV than they are support. So likely what'll happen is A will be removed from the street connection master plan with the thought, to John's point, that this blue line, that B would connect on itself and allow that other area there to develop as single family homes.
Still not.
Which, I mean, it might make sense to have A just be a cul-de-sac and keep that the higher density student housing kind of there on the 1430, and the other ones not connect. There is some merit in that thought too.
I just wanted to report that, so I was there kind of by accident. And Sam told the planning commission that we had voted to keep all the connections in, you know, in the plan. And one of the planning commission members absolutely just cut us off at the knees by saying, I'm sure they weren't aware of all the signatures of the people who were against them when they voted that way. And I was just like choking. I was squirming. It was so frustrating, just like to have her say, oh, I'm sure they didn't mean that. And I was like, yes, we did, but I couldn't say that.
Well, and the one point that you missed too is she began by saying, well, that makes, that logically makes a lot of sense. But there's all these folks that were adamantly opposed. It was just like, okay, well, at least I scored the logic point.
Yeah, you're right. It wasn't clear. There were, when I say clear, there was a few that were very outspoken of what they want and didn't want it, and some quieter people, but basically, we're kind of saying, listen, C and D don't affect this property. It would be nice if 1600 went through. That's a bigger fight. The 1600 doesn't even have a connection point here, right? So that really wasn't the option, but there's debate about connecting these and looping up onto these parcels. But now we're kind of down to A and B. What should happen? it's loosely tied to the site plan. So I know it came in as a separate issue, and it's like, the zoning is separate from the red circles, but not really.
That's because if this doesn't get approved, there's no reason to have a site plan because it goes to the
Right.
project.
Yeah.
So he gave up some of his cabins by doing this. He'd have to do a full curb gutter sidewalk road. That actually serves another person's property. So, I mean, there's some things that he'd have to do to get the rest of it. But right now, it looks like it's down to the city council on the AB connection.
So, is the developer of the cabins, local, or are they coming?
He lives right here.
So he knows the people involved. There's neighbors.
Yeah, he's only been there recently. It's not like he grew up in the area. He recently
Okay.
purchased that property,
Okay, so it is somebody. Yeah.
but he's been there for a few years.
He owns this property and this property. And we met with him personally right before Christmas, and I think we meet with him again next
Is
Tuesday.
there that emergency vehicle challenge? if
Yeah.
they Not connect?
The fire chief has been involved.
Probably know you're not gonna get there from here, so.
Well, we've talked to him twice, and there would be a crash gate here for the fire to get down into here, and then regular access up here. So since, like Cheryl said, if these don't happen, then why spend money on a site plan? So we've got some crayon pencil site plans that were kind of like, that's not gonna work. But we know that because if it doesn't get access correct, then they're gonna say, well, we're not gonna spend a lot of money on a site plan. So the fire chief is very aware. We've got into turning templates on their trucks and how can they get to the cabins? They were talking about sprinklering the cabins. There's clear zones away from the cabins. And so by the time you do that, what trees are left? So there are a ton of site issues that we have to get through, and then access right here, what that's going to look like. It's going to be jammed if it's an event center. So right now we're trying to go like this and look at the site plan and go, okay, we see what you're saying.
So
But
it's up to the city council to decide if they're going to keep the road or not, which will then impact what the developer does or does not do in the area.
Yeah, and the developer's gonna meet with our fire marshal this week. We've given them the wheelbases of our vehicles. So they're looking at changing the roads and understanding that water main needs to be connected through, and we've kind of gone through some of the more detailed things that he should be aware of that's gonna make his site plan a little more functional, because his site plan, I mean, it had some merit to it, but I mean, when you start looking at trying to get emergency apparatus in there, trying to get water to each one of those, if we have a water main, and are you looking to meter it, or how are you looking to make all that work? He's gotta sharpen his pencil and do some things. And to John's point, they haven't submitted a traffic impact study, so really the site plan is kind of all separate from this right now. They're just discussing eliminate A from the street.
When we talked about it in our meeting, we talked about access for those homes. Right? 1600 south, that group of home, but their only access point is to get on that
Sandhill
road.
Road.
Sandhill. So if there was a connection between B and A, that they have another access.
Yeah, they could come up and get to the Krispy Kreme light.
Understanding too, that there is an access here. They can go up Hidden Hollow.
Oh,
So that is the only thing that's kind of
So right
the
here.
problem you have with Hidden Hollow is that it's a local road. It's 28 feet of asphalt, if that. Fairly substandard, and it's acting like. So it's operating not within its roadway classification, it's outside of it, so.
And the-
so if there was a connection between A and B, it might alleviate some of the pressure. on
Oh, for sure.
that road.
And the owner came in with a plan that didn't have this, and it had this is supposed to be a straight line, but I can't draw a straight line. A straight line here, there was a cul-de-sac here, there's also a cul-de-sac here, or this road would swing up. And we've kind of said, we don't want any more access on Sandhill Road.
Yeah.
And so, I don't know if I can delete all this, but But we're kind of down to, okay, without access on Sandhill Road, what could this look like? This provides a cul-de-sac here, this provides access here, and it kind of keeps this residential area intact. But if it goes forward, we'll look at site plans closer. And we've already addressed traffic a few times and suggested a lot of things. We're worried about 1430 with their site, and that'll come through this regular approval. Parking on 1430 right now, and then access, whether you're turning right or left in. So there's a lot of work to be done on that side if it happens. But as of now, it's C and D kind of is tossed aside, and A and B are the hot topic. And there's not an approval motion for that. It's just kind of informative. I have to figure out how to remove those lines. Next, item 5 are just other items in general.
Yeah, question, and I apologize for this last week, so if you talked about it, I'm sorry. Why the closure on 5th South or 4th South now at the water tank? I mean, we flip-flop now 3 times. Did we talk about why they're closing it down?
So what's happening now is the contractor that is installing the water main and the storm drain main up 6 West, they are there ahead of schedule, and they'd like to continue. And with construction timing, with their work to happen in 4th South, and then the well, as well as the pump house, they need to get in there and start doing that utility work to get in and out of the way, so the other.
So they didn't plan on having 2 contractors at the same time.
No, I think the intent was for them to. The intent was to have them in there in the summertime when there wasn't gonna be traffic, and then move forward and have them, but they're way ahead of schedule. And with that happening, we just want them to get in and out. They want to keep working. And it's a challenge because there's an existing water main that has to be taken out of service, but in order to do that, we need to install the other main, and there's just some construction timing in it. As much as I'm sure there was some wailing and gnashing of teeth for some of the parents when we brought these contractors together to kind of explain to them what was happening, there started to be some turf wars and traffic control, and they were doing a little bit of it each, because the tank still has to be making their large pours. And the pipe contractor still has to be able to provide them access.
Isn't that 4th and 4th?
Or south.
4th South.
So that's the plan.
Wrong.
It'll be probably closed until 2025. But once they get in there and do that, once we do the utility work, then what needs to happen is we have a contractor that's gonna move in on site, so. We're up to, in this area with the pipe work, and we have a gravity water main that's gonna service this tank that'll take water down to the spring water area. The other is the tank overflow, which is the storm drain that will take the water down and do the same thing. Here in 4th South, we have the gravity main that's got to come up, tie into the tank. The storm drain main that's going to come up here, as well as we have a well, no pun intended, sitting right here, and we have a pump station that has to be built here. And this pump station will have to go out into 4th South, and there's a 20-inch line that'll be a manifold system that will run from, I want to say eventually 8th West all the way up to 400 East. And during that peak demand time when the well is filling the tank, this pump station will then draw water from this tank and go out and energize the spring water or the central zone. So I know it's getting a little more geek speak than you guys wanted, but so we got 3 big lines that are going to be being built here for South, as well as trying to continue to not halt operations on pouring this tank with all their large concrete pours. This is going to happen. All these utilities are going to happen. And once we get out and cross and get out and pass and get all that done, then the contractor will come in and start building the well house as well as the pump house. And we have some renderings of those. Those are going to look like a barn when it's all said and done, even though inside you're going to have large pumps and a well and things like that.
So 4th South is totally closed.
It will be, it'll be closed this week, yeah.
What does that mean for school access?
Yeah, so
Yeah.
They're moving all the buses, all pickup and everything to that little teeny thing.
Yeah,
on the
there's-
east side.
Up here, I think they've been operating off of.
Well, they've been trying to get people to go 6 West. And if they want to get the teachers, I've heard, to park over there. So that they can open up that east lot,
Yeah.
but we're gonna have buses and everything. I mean, for me, it's actually fine, if we drop my daughter off now at the orchard. And with forced out closed, she'll have no problem getting across there. But it's gonna be ugly on 4th West.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But they've done a good job of trying
Thanks.
to get them to go right out only. So instead of having parents wait to try to make a left. Trying to get them to come right out, go to 4 South. I think clear out that way, but
Yeah, it all looks good in paper to have these things sitting here until you try and build it. And there's not enough room.
so one last question, hopefully this is quick. We discussed this earlier, but the school zone starts north of or south. Even though the vast majority of children crossing the street are at 4th and 4th.
So you're saying traveling north?
Yes, traveling north. Well, either way, traveling north and south, it either starts north of 4 South or ends north of 4 South, depending on where you're going. Although there is no sign that says when it ends, I just assume it ends at the other sign. But the point is, given the fact that most students actually cross at the 4th and 4th, what is the process to move or extend the school zone to include where the kids actually cross the street?
So the school zone's up here.
Yeah, it starts.
Oh, there it is right there.
Starts up there. Which is, I mean, it's okay because there's a crosswalk up there and there's a crossing guard which actually works there, but there's a crossing guard at the intersection. And is not protected by,
The intersection
school
is
zone.
not for a school.
which seems silly to me.
Well, I guess what I can do is I'll ask the question to Taylor, maybe John can answer some of the. School zones are regulated by the state, from what I recall, and to have a school zone, even though we have one at Center Street and 8 East. Overlap a signal, I think is technically against the law, because you have that traffic control device as a signal being there. So what I can do is I can ask the question, and I know there's some requirements on lengths of school zones and where they have to be so many feet before and after the actual crossing and whatnot, but I can ask the question and see what makes sense, because I know the state's done a lot of research into if it's too long, is it hard to keep people to adhere to it? And can we have it in one spot, then it's not, then it's another, so I can at least ask the question as to, because it makes sense.
Yeah. And I understand, but it's a totally different traffic flow. It's a traffic flow device that puts you to 20. Not that it controls where you stop. So I don't understand that problem overlapping a signal, but I could be.
Well, I mean, if they're crossing with the crossing guard with traffic, there's always no need, and then when they're stopped to cross the other way, there probably isn't the need to keep them at 20, even though logically speaking, it makes sense. You got a bunch of little kids on the sidewalk. You shouldn't be proceeding with caution.
Yeah, the state doesn't have school zones without a crossing. You
Yeah,
probably-
no, I get that.
Yeah. And I think in their design manual, there's some sheets that go through 5 or 6 pages. But
No, that makes sense. You say that now.
Yeah, it's a weird thing, because I know at Vineyard Elementary, they wanted to have a school zone down there on 4 South across from Lakeside Sports Park. But you can't have a school zone flashing yellow lights in an area where it's posted 25 miles an hour. You can if you're posted 30 miles an hour, then you can go ahead and do it. So essentially, we got to raise the speed limit on 4 South to turn around and put in a school zone.
Well, it's 25 on 4th West.
Right, so I mean, unless, yeah. And some of these were in place and they're grandfathered in and they've always been there. I just know when I was working with Paul on this one. We went straight to the state law and was like, well, if you want it there,
The only way we can do is let's post it at 30. Which wasn't a big deal because the 85th percentile, I think, was 32, and it was already there, people were driving it, but which I'm sure they are in Northwest as well.
All right.
But I can ask the question.
Is there an update on your meetings about this project?
Coldway Road.
We'd be excused.
Thanks.
Thank you. Thanks, Becky.
Yeah. John, is there an update on that yet? No,
On which one?
that project. Or that.
No, there's not. Trying to think, we meet with you out once a month. I don't think we had the December
So
one.
many Solutions.
Yeah,
Yes.
they are,
Yeah.
yeah. We brought it up to. There's funding right now. For. It's called SS4A. Safe.
Safe routes to school.
Yeah, but it's a new set of funding. It's like $600 million. That's across the US.
Oh, say that.
SS for all. I forget what. And we're pursuing funding. We were given direction on what qualifies, and they said corridors and pedestrian safety. So, you know, if there's been fatalities, you get higher ranked. If there's injuries, you get higher ranked. So this was one that I think MAG could get behind, and multi-jurisdictional. And so we'll have to see. It's a grant funding to see what could happen.
Safe streets and roads for all.
Safe streets, yeah.
Good. 16th and 4th. It's not that.
I know. It's just how far it would rank. We'd have to look at,
Big question, there's no fatalities.
yeah, deaths. And so, and I know that MAG or Utah hasn't won any of those grants. So in the past, so we're trying to figure out,
Something wrong.
yeah, not that we can't do anything here on our own dime. But it's not like if we don't get the funding, we're not going to do anything, but Vineyard has put in a beacon flashing here. Since we've spoken, and then this is going to be realigned. So there is a flashing beacon there. So the next step is to get UDOT to allow us to do some other things that there.
She's crossing.
She jaywalked, yeah.
Heard she crossed maybe through here to get to the sports park. So there's we've talked about it last time about some things we can do and different alignments and closures and medians.
If it's helpful for the funding process, there is a group called Balance for Safe Streets. That in an offshoot by Long Provo. They are a national organization, so they're Utah chapter work here, to help families affected by traffic violence.
Maybe they could be as, yeah.
If that's helpful, I have the guy who's the head of it right now is a Orem resident and maybe a resident, but a professor at UVU. And his 14-year-old son was hit and killed a few years ago, trying to get to the rates. But they're organized.
Well, maybe get their endorsement on some of these might help. So, okay.
So a lot of information shared.
Okay. Let's see.
They support families affected by traffic violence and also advocate for safe streets. That's the both they do.
Okay. Any other items? We just need a motion to adjourn if there's nothing else.
Oh.
We can't close the meeting.
That before she left.
We can't close the meeting.
Oh.
Did you gotta stick with the same person?
I did, which is not correct, it is not, because I heard Becky at one point said, I made too many motions, you should make such, so she started making.
You make a motion that we adjourn.
I second.
All in favor? Any objections? We're done.
Thanks.
Okay. Thank you all.
Thanks, everybody.
John, Sam, thank you for staying for these meetings, and Cheryl. I'm sure it makes for a long day for you guys.